Bring in Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg is a former National Security Advisor to Vice President Mike Pence and the co-chairman of the America First Policy Institute Center for American Security. So all the talk, General, this afternoon has been this appeal that Zelensky has made to NATO to commit to a no-fly zone over Ukraine, which would basically, I use the color blue because NATO is known as the Blue Force, and that would basically make all of this an area, I guess, north of Crimea, where Russian planes could not fly. Here's what Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO Secretary General, said about it. We are not part of this conflict, and we have a responsibility to ensure it does not escalate and spread beyond Ukraine. We understand the desperation, but we also believe that if we did that, a no-fly zone, we would end up with something that could lead to a full-fledged war in Europe involving much more countries and much more suffering. But, General, you say that there is a way to do it. How?
Well, I think there is. And look, I think we're walking into Act Two of a Greek tragedy. And that Act Two will start with the Russians going into the major buildup areas, primarily Kyiv, a city of 3 million. And you're going to see street-to-street fighting. You're going to see a lot of casualties out there, civilian casualties. And I think when you start seeing those visions of those people dying, the civilians, I think the world's going to say, I'm tired of this. Enough. Stop. And I think what the United States could do is not get NATO involved, but they can go to the UN. And they could say under Articles 27 and 52, wait a second, there's a way to do this. Have a UN no-fly zone, not a NATO no-fly zone where Article 5 doesn't apply.
And who would enforce that?
Well, the UN. Well, we would probably involve it under UN cover. But under both of those articles, all you need is 9 of the 15 votes of the UN Security Council to get it moving. And according to Article 52...
Russia veto?
Wow, that's where Article 52 comes in, because Article 52 is very specific. Article 52 says if you're part of a conflicted party, you're part of it, you are supposed to, by UN rules, abstain. So, and if we could get an interlocutor like Macron to pick up the phone and call Putin and call maybe President Xi and say, hey, look, we want you both to abstain. Look, Putin is not winning this fight. Putin is losing this fight. And he would look at ways to say, well, where's my off-ramp? And my off-ramp is, with all this economic problems I've got, there may be a way to do it. And if the United Nations comes into the world body and says this is going to be a UN no-fly zone, then we honor what Zelensky has wanted. We keep NATO out of the fight. Now, is this high risk? Of course it is. Is it a perfect plan? No, it's not. No plans are perfect. But there's a way to do it, and we should at least explore it.
That is an interesting formula. Let me come along to where we are now in terms of this invasion. And we go to the south because this is the area where we've seen most of the action now on the part of the Russians. They have moved past Kherson. Apparently now they're heading toward Mykolaiv, which inevitably follows the road which goes this way right into Odessa. I assume that the Russian plan is to surround the back part of Odessa, because you see you've got rivers over here on this side. You could basically cut the city off. And then at the same time, they're moving up here to the northeast to Mariupol. And then here at Enerhodar, they have captured the Zaporizhia nuclear power station. In terms of strategic positioning, what does that give Russia now that it can use for the future?
Well, Odessa would be a fight in the city, because that's the third largest city. It's going to be a major battle if they want to go in there. And you're right about the plan doing that is probably to cut it off and isolate it, and then I'll have it from the sea access and from the ground access if they want to go in there. On the nuclear power plant, you asked a question a couple of days ago, and it was a great question. And I think people really didn't pick up on it. What they're trying to do is shut down the power grid. This is an attack on the civilian populace of Ukraine, and you caught it. And they've now got both of the major power plants, the nuclear power plants. Fortunately, there's 2 more on the western edge. They can't get to those at all. But if you start shutting that down, that's clearly an attack on the humanitarian centers. And without power, it's going to start putting more and more pressure on them. I think that's why they're doing it. Look, I think what they did was absolutely way out of bounds. I know in the American military, we would put big boxes around them, no fire areas, you don't go into those. And they've just accelerated the problem that they have right now.
In terms of the psychological aspect of all of this, General, we got news today that Ukraine claims that one of its snipers took out, I guess, what is one of the leading generals of the airborne assault into Ukraine. You were airborne yourself. Right. What sort of morale booster is that for the for the Ukrainian forces?
I've always believed that a dead general is always good for morale. It really says support the troops out there. It really does. I mean, that proves that they are attacking, the Ukrainians are attacking the targets correctly. Now I get it. It's a backhanded compliment to the Russians. That's what I expect airborne commanders to do, to be at the front of the fight. But when you take out a senior commander like that, it builds everybody up. You're saying, we are actually fighting this fight, we're winning this fight. If you don't have generals like that dying on the other side, you say, are we accomplishing the mission? And the reason why that's important is the VDV, their airborne forces, their primary assault forces, along with their Spetsnaz. It's not bad to kill those generals out there. I mean, they did it right.
But as Jack Keane was pointing out earlier today, Russia's got plenty of generals.
Well, Ukraine's got plenty of ammunition, too.
Well, we've got some special generals here, and you're one of them. General Keith Kellogg, thanks so much for being with us.
John.
Appreciate it.